The Death of Superman, Milestone, new Batman villains. But can you hear that? The crash is coming. It's DC Comics 1993. Next on Bronzeville Comics. Hey comic book community, this is Jim from Bronzeville Comics, and today we're going to be talking about DC Comics from 1993. And for the most part, these books are fairly plentiful because it was at the height of the speculators market, and you can find in most flea markets and a lot of garage sales those polybag black Death of Superman and white Rebirth of Superman books. They're all over the place. They're not too high on this list, to be honest with you, because they were so widely produced. But in 1993, we did see some comics that have accrued value over the last 28 years. And we're kind of right before that comic market in the 90s hit its peak of speculation and then crashed. So DC was producing a lot of new books, and they had a new line of titles that does have a lot of resonance, and that was the Milestone line. And we'll talk about several of those comics. Now, a lot of comics from the 1990s are so easy to find and really so books that should be in dollar bins, and they are, and you could find them. As a matter of fact, some of the books I picked up at a flea market this Saturday, I just wanted to show them here, that they were easy to find, and I picked out the ones that I thought, according to the research I've been doing for 1993, did have a little bit of value. Before we get started, let's talk about, we're at 700 subscribers. We're talking about our 750 subscriber giveaway. That's going to be this newsstand edition of a DC 1992 book, the Superman the Man of Steel number 18, the first appearance of Doomsday. And this is going to be given to someone who subscribes to the channel, likes the video, and comments on the video. And we're going to randomly choose a comment from the video from October 15th until we hit 750 subscribers that has the fewest amount of comments when we do the drawing. So that's subject to change over time. In addition, today, not only do we have a look at DC 1993, but we're going to have a CGC unveiling. Now, not an unboxing, because there's a story behind this book. I'm still waiting for some books back from CGC. Probably not anything until early next year. So, without further ado, let's get started. And we're going to get started talking about, this was the Death of Superman. That's not a really huge book. We will talk about that in our honorable mention list, but we're going to talk about this book here, which is Adventures of Superman 498. The first part of the Funeral for a Friend, where Superman, right after Superman is killed by Doomsday, spoiler warning, and they tried to bring him back to life. And this book has sold as high, it has an average sale in a 9.8 of $130. The last two sales are both $130 and 9.8, and those were in July and September. I tend to think this was kind of around speculation for the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League film that was released on HBO Max. We move on to number 9, and we're going to start to talk about the imprint that DC began in 1993, which is the Milestone imprint, which were a series of books set in the fictional Midwestern city of Dakota with African-American heroes and villains created by African-American artists and writers, specifically Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan, who were the spearhead of the Milestone line. And coming in at number 9 is Blood Syndicate number 1. There have only been 3 9.8 sales of Blood Syndicate number 1 all this year, the highest of which was $138.50 in September. Raw copies are probably in about the $15 range. Coming in at number 8, with the Netflix series coming up, it was the spin-off miniseries from Sandman, Death, The High Cost of Living, number 1, by Neil Gaiman. That has a 90-day average sale and a 9.8 of $169. Raw comics for about a $5 to $10 range. The most recent sale in October was $199. Now, Death will be included in the Netflix miniseries, so I think it's possible that all the Sandman titles could heat up due to that. As we move on to number 7 on the list, we have Hardware number 1, another one of the Milestone books. This book sells again for about $15 raw, and about $204 in a CGC 9.8. The most recent and highest sale was a $225 sale in October. There was also a Platinum edition, which is true for a lot of the big books on this list for DC in 1993. That sold for a high of $500 last December. Continuing the milestone trend, we move on to number 6 on our list, which is Icon number 1, which goes for about $15 to $20 raw and about $263 in a CGC 9.8. The most recent sale there was a $200 sale in July. The highest was a $330 sale in April of a CGC 9.8 at the height of the market. Icon has been included in Young Justice as a member of the Justice League. So these characters from the Milestone universe have been integrated into DC continuity, and we've also started to see them in some of the DC properties, and I think we'll see more of that in TV shows, HBO Max shows, and movies going forward. As we move on to number 5 on the list, another Static book, which is another Milestone book, which is Static number 1. Right? That book sells for about $40 to $50 raw and about $277 in a CGC 9.8. Now, an unbagged poly bag edition sold in October for $350. Now, if you're going to get this graded, as with any polybag book, you want to take it out of the polybag, because what CGC will do, if you send it to them in the polybag, they're going to take it out of the polybag. But it will have a crease from the polybag seam all along the book, which will take the grade of the book down significantly. You know, a book that could potentially be a 9.8 might be a 9.0, an 8.5. And that polybag crease is easily pressed out by somebody who can do pressing. Of course, we had the Static Shock animated series on the Kids WB, and Michael B. Jordan has been attached to a feature film that's going to be developed with the character. We've seen the character in the Young Justice animated series. So there's a lot of speculation around Static, and I think with him will come some of these other Milestone characters as well, but he's probably the most marketable of all of them. The most recent 9.8 sale was $237.50 in October. The high of $460 was in March, and a Platinum edition 9.8 sold in March for $900. Moving on to number 4 on our list, Demon Annual number 2, which is the first appearance of Hitman Tommy Monahan. Probably what moves this higher on the list ahead of some other books that contain more popular characters was print run at the time. Not a lot of people were buying Demon Annual number 1, or certainly not speculating on it, but a lot of people bought these polybagged Milestone books. These Superman, Death of Superman books were pretty widely ordered. This book is about a $20 book raw and sells for about $340 in a CGC 9.8. There have been 4 9.8s sold, 3 between $270 and $290. What drives the average up was in May, a kind of an outlier sale of $450. So probably the average is $349, but probably a better estimation of the middle value of that would be closer to $280. We move on to number 3 on our list, and again, this was a run book, and it's a hugely popular cover by Brian Boland, Wonder Woman number 72. This is totally for the classic Brian Boland cover. This is a Wonder Woman cover that people seek out. Raw sales, $35 to $40. A CGC 9.8, about $540. The most recent sale of $540 was in October. The high sale of $999 in a CGC 9.8 was in May. We move on to number 2 on our list. Talking about Batman villains, this is a very popular villain, which is Batman Vengeance of Bane Special. Number 1, the first appearance of Bane, which is about a $60 to $80 raw book and sells for close to $600 in a CGC 9.8. The most recent sale of a 9.8 is $640. The high of $1,069.95 in June, which was an outlier because most other sales at the time, even at the height of the market, were in the $700 range. There's also a second print of this book in which CGC 9.8s, 2 of them have sold, both for $319. Now we're going to move up to number 1 on our list. And there's a story here. we're going to do a CGC unveiling. Not an unboxing, but an unveiling. So summer of 2019, pre-pandemic, I started to sort through my collection. And I found this book, and I knew it had value. So I took it to my LCS, gave it to my friend, said, can you get this out, send it out, get it cleaned and pressed and graded. I want to see what it comes back. Not really fully knowing how grading works and how the marketing works, just know that that will increase the value. So I got this book back. I figured it was a 9 point something because I had bought it off the rack and it had been sitting there, you know, for 28 years at the time, right? No, 21 years. No. 1993. I'm a math teacher. I should be able to figure this out. I bought it in 2019. 26 years. It had been sitting in a bag, in a box, untouched. Read once. So I had it sent out, and I wasn't sure what the grade was going to be. So this is the only book for my personal collection that I have had graded. Everything else, including the 100 and I think it's now 60 books that I have out at CGC, are books that I acquired through collections off of eBay, and it shows in the last 6 months. This is the only one from my personal collection that has gone out, and it came back as a 9.8 white pages. This is Batman Adventures number 12. For those of you who don't know, the first appearance of Harley Quinn. Even though it's not in continuity, this is based on the Batman Adventures TV series. This is one of the key grails of the Copper Age. Raw sales of this are probably in the $400 to $500 range, and the 90-day average in a CGC 9.8 is $3,543. The most recent sale is $3,600 with a high sale of $4,295 back at the height of the market in May. So this was my CGC unveiling. It's the only book from my PC that has been sent out to CGC. Others will follow it, but actually my goal is to sort through my collection first, get everything in order, and then start to downsize some of it, sell some of it, send some of it out to CGC once I have it all together and determine what I want to keep. That being said, I'm up to SO, so I have a little bit of a project left to me. Really, it's getting over that SU hump that's going to be kind of the fun part of it. So let's talk about honorable mention for these books. So let's look at a book that is really wouldn't make the list based on this value, but it's a key book and it's a hidden key, and that's Adventures of Superman 500. It's part of the Funeral for a Friend series. It's the first appearance of Con-El, Superboy, and John Henry Iron Steel. These are both big characters in DC lore. Steel was a movie that, well, everyone would run and forget, including Shaquille O'Neal, who starred in it, but he was in season 1 of Superman and Lois. Con-El, Superboy, has been in seasons 2 and 3 of Titans. So those are hugely popular characters. Now, also on my honorable mention list is this book. Again, a book that was really highly printed, which is Batman number 493, The Breaking of the Bat. The most recent 9.8 has been $100, but it tends to be about $86. It's about a $10 raw book. Again, this is a book I picked up for $2, I think, at a flea market this weekend. So again, these books are fairly easy to find. It's the one where Bane breaks Batman's back. Now the newsstand edition, which it's very easy. This fold over, this kind of card fold, whatever you want to call it, is the direct edition. The newsstand edition doesn't have that. In the newsstand edition, the barcode looks a little bit yellowed. So if you see the book, don't think it's yellowed because of age. That's the way it was produced. The most recent 9.8 newsstand is a $325 book and has sold for as high as $500 back in July. Kind of the next batch of books are Sandman. Sandman books are always popular. There have been sales from 1993, issue 51, sold for $199 in a 9.8, but these are all one-off sales. So, as I've said in previous videos, I think Sandman collectors perhaps want to collect these at 9.8s, look out for them, submit them, and want to maybe have a run of the book. But it's a good book to have, and again, the TV show is coming on Netflix soon. Action Comics, I think it's this one, 685, which stars Supergirl because during the funeral for a friend, Superman was dead. He got better. This book has sold about $120. $120 in CGC 9.8 in May, $101 in January, but it's a book you can get for under $10 raw if you want to try to pick up some raws and see if you can flip them. Catwoman #1 is the first issue in Catwoman's first ongoing series. She had a mini-series previously, but this is the first ongoing Catwoman solo series with a Jim Ballant cover. And that most recent sale was $115 in a CGC 9.8 in October, as high as $250 in 2016. Again, you can probably get raws under $10. Catwoman has a long history. Her first appearance is back in Batman #1. You're not going to get that. So if we see how some of the Marvel MCU characters have gone, we start to look for first limited series, first solo series. That's something just to keep an eye out for. Again, dollar bin books. These you can pick them up pretty cheaply. Lobo #1 is the first of his ongoing series. We had talked about a couple of weeks ago that his first mini-series is the more valuable book. The most recent 9.8 sale was $120 in September. The previous was $86 in May. Next, Zatanna #1. This is her first limited series. Now, Zatanna has a whole ton of keys, and she's a hugely popular character. Rumored to be getting her own movie, HBO Max TV series. Her first appearance in Hawkman #4 in the Silver Age is very, very pricey. And there are a whole bunch of keys associated with her. Her second appearance in Adam 19, her third appearance in Green Lantern 42, the culmination of all those stories in Justice League of America 51. Flash 198 is her first solo story. Adventure Comics 412 to 415 have backup stories that were all collected in DC Superstars #11, which reprints those issues, and Zatanna's on the cover. That is a very sought-after book. Supergirl #5 has her origin. I think it's Supergirl #7 has the first Zatanna Supergirl team-up. Later on, she joins the Justice League, but she had a special in 1988, I believe it was, and this is her first limited series. She had an ongoing series in 2015 that sought after largely because of the covers, many of them by Adam Hughes. Action Comics 689 is right here. This is the first appearance of the Black Suit Superman. And you can see here we already have Superboy and Steel running around, as well as Hank Henshaw, whose actually appearance in 1992 commands a little more money than either of these two characters, surprisingly. That Adventure Superman 500 was so heavily produced that it's driven down the values of those books. Another one, first solo series for Black Orchid. Black Orchid #1 has sold for as high as $80 in a CGC 9.8. This is a character to also keep an eye out for. Her first appearance was in Adventure Comics 428. She was kind of rewritten when Neil Gaiman did her limited series. I think it was in the late 80s. This is her first ongoing series. She's been part of Justice League Dark. If there's a Justice League Dark TV series or movie, she could be part of that. So that may drive up some Black Orchid keys. Superman Man of Steel 19 is a book. Again, all these books you could probably get in dollar bins, to be honest with you. So that's where I would look for them. Superman 19 is sold for a high of $77 in a CGC 9.8. Again, not a very pricey book. It's the continuation of his fight against Doomsday. Hawkman #1 is a new ongoing series for Hawkman. He's coming to the Black Adam movie. There's been a lot of talk about that character and him fighting Black Adam. He goes back to the Golden Age, first appearance in Flash Comics #1. Good luck getting that. Then there's Robin #1. This is the first Robin ongoing series. Robin goes back to the Golden Age, of course, Detective Comics 39, published all the way through. He had several miniseries, 3 miniseries actually preceding this. This is the Tim Drake version of Robin. This is his first ongoing series. CGC, highest sale was $72. This is a dollar book that you can get. There have been 5 sales in a 9.8, all between $50 and $75, so it's a cheap book. A couple other books that I like. One of the other ones is Superman 75. Right, this is the death of Superman. Everybody's seen this iconic cover. The white one is the second printing. This is a newsstand copy, which does command a little bit more. It has sold as high as $175 in January 18. There's a platinum edition that has gone for as high as $985 in April. Again, some of the price driving of this book and the Black Suit book as well, I think was around the Snyder cut of the Justice League. Another book, I'm just going to plug this book because I love the miniseries Golden Age by James Robinson, Golden Age #1. That's a book that hasn't even been graded. You can find that. And then a book that sells for about $10 raw, which is kind of an intriguing book, especially with the Batman movie coming out, is Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween Special from 1993. So that's a lot of books from 1993, more books than we've had in the 3 previous years from the 1990s for DC. And of course, Batman Adventures #12, first appearance of Harley Quinn, is, I believe, the biggest book of the DC in the 90s. I don't think there's anything larger than that in terms of its value, and a 9.8. And that's a book that I've held on. We've seen Harley Quinn in the movie several times. And since this was aimed at a kid's book, it's harder to get in high grade. Me being a silly, full-grown adult at the time, and it was a Batman book. I bought it. I have the whole run of Batman Adventures and some of the other cartoon-related properties for DC at the time because I bought almost everything, especially as Batman. And so I'm lucky enough to have this in my collection. Let me know what you think about this 1993 list. We'll be moving on next week to 1994, and the crash is coming. So I haven't even started to research 1994. That should be fun. We'll see what we get. So, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this video. And until next time, enjoy your comics.